Had to be in Puerto Rico for a whole week for work.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to call the committee meetings for the Nash County Public Schools to order. It should be a relatively short meeting tonight. We only have two teams reporting out, and that's the team of the academic services and the administrative services. We will start out, because this is going to be a little bit different. We will start out with the administrative services and operations first. We'll cover all of those items and we'll come back. Then we'll jump over to the academic services. And then we'll close out our session. We got a closed session tonight we'll be going into. And then we'll come back after closed session to close out the Board of Education Academic Services and Operation. So with the first thing on the agenda is we'll start out with the Board of Education Academic Services and Operation Committee meeting. Our agenda will be modified. So the modification comes in that basically we will be moving the item 5 from item 4 to item 4, item 5 to item 4. And basically after that, we will go into closed session. And after closed session, we'll come back and we'll talk about item 4, which is currently for the upset bid process. So I need a motion. Let me do a roll call first for the committee members. Make sure we have a quorum. So Lank Dunstan, is he online? Donovan Chavis?
Here.
Franklin Lamb?
Here.
Sharonda Bullard? Bill Sharp is here. So we have 3 out of the 5, and I think that would be enough to actually carry a quorum with that. So I need a motion to modify the agenda, please.
Make a motion to modify the agenda.
Questions or discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any oppositions? Aye, so carry. So the first item on the agenda is the extension of the Kelly Services contract, Sheila Wallace.
Good evening, Chairman Lamb, Vice Chair,
Chairman
Dr.
Hooper.
Washington. I'm sorry, I'm looking at Mr. Lamb.
This lady is committee meeting.
I'm so
Let's-
sorry. This is the committee meeting. I apologize.
They can see we'll start all over.
I'm sorry. Got Mr. Lamb on the brain today. Good evening, Chairman Sharp, Vice Chair Dr. Washington, and other committee members. We do have a request tonight for your approval, and it is to extend the Kelly Services grant in the amount of $600,000. And we want to ensure this has a cushion so that we don't exceed the full grant amount that was approved back in the fall. We have used Kelly Services on a regular basis now, especially for these long-term vacancies that we have endured this year. And we also approved an increase to the substitute rates, which has caused us to request this approval or this motion to move forward with the approval for the $600,000 extension. So on behalf of Dr. Ellis, Superintendent Ellis, we're asking for your approval to extend the Kelly Services grant.
I need a motion.
So move.
12 seconds.
It's been properly moved by Mr. Lamb, second by Ms. Davis. Questions or discussions? I got one question.
Yes,
I don't see the actual dollar amount on this exhibit here, or did I not?
it was included in the
In the back?
similar,
But
yes.
it's not here, correct?
No, it's there.
600,000.
600,000 should be there.
And I was looking over to see if I saw that.
Do you see it? Isn't it there, sir? It's the one.
Kelly Services Exhibit A.
It says financial. It's on the application. That just gave you a list of the new approved rates. I have the PO here that you will need to sign later. but 600 is there for financial implications.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay,
All right. Any other questions or discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor, roll call vote. Madam Board Clerk?
Bill Sharp,
Yes.
Mike Duncan, not here. Donovan Davis,
Yes.
Franklin Lamb,
Yes.
Shavonda Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you.
thank you.
The next item on the agenda is something that we really look forward to, is the actual budget presentation.
So what we're going to do this year is, since we are speaking tonight at Edgecombe, we wanted to show you the budget proposal. Tomorrow night is get back from Easter break. What we normally do is just share a budget for you to review, but what we thought we would do is share our budget proposal that we share with Edgecombe and Nash, so you all can kind of see what this presentation is going to look like. You're still going to see in the handout what we normally do, that you can approve our budget for the following year. But we thought it'd be good to go through these slides. And if you have any questions at the end, we'll talk about them. So next slide. So already done the welcome. We're going to go over the 2021-22 review. Then we're going to go over the budget. We're going to talk about challenges, and then there's going to be a request at the end that we're going to be asking from the county commissioner. So we'll start first with the completed projects. Shannon Davis.
There we go.
There you go.
This is basically a list of some of the major projects. It's not everything that we major projects. What you're looking at here is Winston Avenue Elementary. We started removing a lot of carpet from the old multi-purpose rooms and replacing it with polyurethane. We did Winston Avenue. Next slide is Williker. Completed that one this year. We've got 2 more elementary schools on the slate for next year, so they're doing basically the same type of work.
Okay, next slide. Nashville Elementary. This is the next to the last set of gym bleachers. As you know, we've gone through all the high schools, middle schools in the district, replacing bleachers and sanding and refinishing floors in Nashville, and Red Oak Elementary are the last 2. We completed this one this past year. And also you notice in the background, the windows have also been replaced. This is Spring Hope. The windows were the previous year, and this past year we got the gym roof replaced. Also put AC inside that gymnasium on the previous year. Purchased 2 maintenance vehicles and 2 mowers for the grounds department. Northern Nash High School, we started replacing the lights with new LED fixtures. We've been doing this in tandem with some of the heating and air. We've completed Southern Nash High School a year and a half ago. So now we've moved to Northern Nash, basically doing the same thing, changing it over. Nash Central High School replaced the roofs on the gymnasiums, field house, and media center. This next coming up year, we've got to finish part of the main campus. Southern Nash, we replaced the gym roof. And Fairview Elementary, that's phase 2. We did phase 1 last year, the previous year, and replaced phase 2 this year. This is the far left, you'll see is Hubbard Elementary. That's the staff parking lot that was overlaid, as well as Fairview Elementary. It's the staff lot adjoining Fairview and D.S. Johnson. Okay, these are projects that are now in progress. New construction at Red Oak Elementary School. That's one of the pictures when we first opened this project to you guys. You'll turn it to the next slide. This picture was taken late last week. This is kind of where we're sitting at now. We're still slated to open phase 1 of the campus itself, hopefully December, and then move the other Swift Creek, Cedar Grove in the following June. So we're moving those kids in January so we can tear down the existing old campus. This is another project that we are trying to get underway. It's Northern Nash Fieldhouse. We do have the design completed and we've started the bidding process and received bids, awaiting funding on that. This is the rear elevation where the practice field is and a lot of the storage area. You go up to the steps on the left is walking onto the game field. And this is when you walked up the steps on both sides, either side, this is the entering the game field.
Thanks, Mr. Davis. So at this time, I'm gonna call Ms. Whitman to come up here and start the proposed budget, which is what we normally go through. I want to personally thank her
Yes.
for stepping up to the plate.
Yeah.
When you lose a finance director in the middle of a year, that's not the most exciting thing for a superintendent. But she has stepped up and her team has stepped up. And I just want to thank you because we couldn't have done this without you and it's been flawless. So thank you.
So can I add on to over there? She's leaving in June. So she's stepping into retirement. She's frank.
That was some of the motivation, I'm sure.
And so we're excited about that. That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Board Chair, Mr. Sharp, and Vice Chair, Dr. Washington, and other committee members. And I'm just going to present this budget on behalf of Dr. Ellis for you, the first one. So, thank you. Okay, and this is just a summary of the proposed revenues that we receive each year. As you can see, it's a grand total of 127,852,033. Next. And this is just showing you a breakdown by percentages of the different revenues. And as you can see here, the majority of our revenue is state revenue. Next. Here we're looking at our state expenditures by program. If you would go ahead and go to the next slide. And this is our total that we will receive for 22-23, the proposed budget from the state. As you can see, it's less than the current year's budget, and that is due to our ADM. The state has projected our ADM to be about 200 students less this coming school year from this current year. Next. Our local current expense proposed revenue, our county, Nash County and Edgecombe County appropriations, along with the fines and forfeitures from those counties, we are basing our proposed revenue on the same amount as our current year 2021. And this is showing you our local expenditures by our program. You can go ahead and keep going. This is by all of our program report codes, which we have several different departments here. And this is our total here. We removed $5,000 from the local expenditure budget for its interest income. It's such a small amount. We are going to put that in our Fund 8 revenue. And this is our donations and grants revenue and expenses. This is the Fund 8. As that money comes in, it will be added to this grant program for revenue, and I'll be offset within the expenses that the district has to pay out of Fund 8. And I think that's it for that one.
The one, I believe it was during COVID, we lost about 850 students. I think it was 850. And we've recovered, I think about 500 of those students.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, we were grandfathered in the past 2 years. I'm glad we kind of recovered most of those students because I would not have 850 instead of 200 is a bigger difference. But we were funded in 2020 at almost 140 million. I think the last budget I saw in 2020. So you can tell we're starting to lose money.
So when we lose students, we lose funding from the state. Yeah.
Depending on what kind of child they are, you're going to lose federal and Title I dollars, and it's a whole lot of, they carry different.
So I just said that because I want to make sure my colleagues totally understand that when we go through the process. I think Folks that's been around for a while understand, know where we're going with that, and that next process and what we need to be talking through. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Whitman. The next is I wanted Ms. Wallace to really detail today the 3 years of this ESSER funding and what we're spending it on, and then talk about some of the projects that we've completed because of.
Good evening again. So we have 3 pots of funding that we have received for COVID relief this school year. ESSER 1 is the first funding that we receive, is PRC 163. We received approximately $4.2 million, and we each have a timeline for exhausting or liquidating the funds for each of these funding sources. So ESSER 1, which is PRC 163, we did use that funding for SEL services for middle schools, which is your social and emotional support, mental health, which is clinical day treatment services, sanitation supplies, summer leadership after school, leadership support, and a retention bonus that was paid to all employees of Nash County Public Schools that remain for the entire school year. For ESSER 2 funding, which is PRC 171, we received approximately $16.4 million. Those funds were used primarily for technology support, student devices, activity buses, HVAC systems, windows replacements and doors, school nutrition, and also our summer program, which was directed by the state and the Jumpstart Academy. ESSER 3, which is PRC 181, we receive approximately $36 million for this grant. And we use the funding for cafeteria upgrades, Kelly services, the substitutes, beginning teacher director, sanitation supplies and materials, interactive boards for all of our K-12 classrooms, activity buses, Read 180 facilitators at the middle school and high school level, guidance assistants at the middle school and high school level. We also use this funding for NETA coordinator and staff, additional nurses and social workers, retention bonuses, fine art supplies and materials, media digital resources, and additional capital outlay projects. Are there any questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Any questions? I have a few.
Okay.
So out of those 3 categories, what's the balance in every one of those, each of those categories?
So for ESSER 163, we have approximately $151,000 that will be used for summer school. For ESSER 2, which is PRC 171, we have approximately $4.8 million left. And PRC 181, ESSER 3, we have about 27,000 left, 27 million left.
So out of the ESSER 2 funding, is any of that money allocated to what Mr. Davis talked about earlier as far as projects on these different schools?
Yes, sir.
So, Mr. Davis, the numbers that you were talking about are coming from this fund? Coming from that fund? Okay. Now, on the ESSER 3 side, sustainability, what's disturbing to me or concerning, I won't say disturbing, is that basically some of this funding, you're adding staff or workers or employees.
Okay.
That funding will run out. How you plan on sustaining these employees?
So if you look at it in comparison to other districts, we did not go top heavy with staff. And everything that we have listed in here, we are equipped to take it on with Title I once these funds are exhausted.
So we have Title I will be, we won't be.
Between Title I and state, but mostly federal.
Now, because I know state, we're going to talk about state, we don't have enough funding for state as it is because of ADMs. You just talked about reduction ADM.
You're looking at teachers. You're looking at primarily O1 positions.
So is that totally from the state or is that local as well?
Right now, it's just the state and federal.
But you see what I'm directing this
Mhm.
to?
I do.
Sustaining these roles, we're putting people in the role. It's almost like you're putting something inside your house and I get used to it. And then all of a sudden you said, okay, Mr. Sharp, I'm taking it out of your house now. You can't use it.
And I do respect what you're saying, Mr. Sharp, but we did not use a lot of this funding for positions.
I understand that, but when I look at additional nurses and social workers,
That may have been 2 to 3.
so that will we sustain those 2 to 3?
Our goal is to sustain it using federal and state funding.
Okay.
Mhm.
We started a couple years ago trying to wean off any employees other than what was covered by the state, so we would not run into that problem.
Right. And I think, and that's exactly
Done a
right.
good job doing it.
Right. And that's exactly right. That's why I'm saying with
I
this one.
understand.
So
I do understand what you're saying, but that's why we were very cautious with the employees that were listed underneath the funding. We tried to make sure that we completed all of the activities needed in the district, like a lot of capital outlay projects, technology initiatives, and we didn't go top heavy with employees.
yes, Ms.
What's the timeline on having the money spent?
2022 for the 151, that's ESSER 1. And we will use that for summer school. 2023 for ESSER 2 and 2024 for ESSER 3. But right now, I can't guarantee what the federal government would do long-term,
Right.
but we've gotten an extension each year because people aren't using the money.
But what isn't spent will return to the feds, or
That we don't know. That's why they've provided extensions.
we have,
Some of your smaller districts got all of this money and they don't know what to do
we
with it.
have a plan where we're gonna spend it. though,
Yes,
right?
sir. Yes, sir.
Every
Absolutely.
dime.
Every penny.
Franklin, to add,
We budgeted to the penny for each year.
to sort of answer that question too, in my conversation with some of the folks in the legislature, it depends on who sit up in those seats at their upcoming elections, as far as how soon that money will be gone or here. So it may be gone.
Well, I never had to deal with that kind of money being a principal, but I do know that none of our money allocated for the schools I was at reverted back to the central office.
And that should be our goal, not to revert money back.
We had to buy toilet paper.
Right.
But remember now, the ESSER funding, the problem districts are having spending this money is because they only gave us like 4 categories.
Yeah, you only have
You
a
can't
certain
buy
way you
but so
can
many
use
PPEs and
it.
Shannon can only replace so many windows. You just can't spend this money. That's why districts are having a problem. You can't buy with their categories. It's gonna make it difficult, right? And you don't want to put it in people because you are right, Mr. Sharp. You don't want to send people out, but you're almost limited to a point.
Can we sign long-term contracts for technology support?
We've taken
Greg, you know, we're talking
technology
about, but
support
that's
out
a
to
good- that's a good-
2024 with this
That's a
grant.
good thing, Ms. Lane.
Yeah.
Long-term contracts. But again, as I'm sitting looking at this thing, I'm looking at capital outlay project. Shannon, he moved on.
Come on.
I know you got quite a few projects that you can sort of use this funding on. And I'm also looking at activity buses. We talked about activity buses and things we need. Those things aren't cheap, so we can find ways to exhaust that money.
And if you recall, when we first received the funding for each of these PRCs, we gave you a plan of an outline for each year. And it's broken down for technology. It's broken down for capital outlay projects, summer school needs, child nutrition, the different areas that would support us using these funds.
I
Awesome.
have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
If the ESSER funding won,
Mhm.
ESSER won,
Yes, ma'am.
would you say that money should be spent this year?
September 2022. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so with the 27,000, you said in that.
27 million,
27
that's 2024.
But the money that's in ESSER 1,
151,000.
okay,
Mhm.
That's what I'm saying.
then we should be able to spend.
Summer
that.
school will take care of that and then some.
Okay, then
I assure you. Yes, ma'am.
'Cause I'm like, Mr. Lamb, I don't. like-
Transportation will eat that amount up easily.
Okay,
Mhm.
good.
I'm worried more about our federal government than I am our finance director.
I mean, yes, yeah.
I am too.
Mhm. Any other questions? Yes, yours. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, these next slides are basically just showing you some of the ESSER funding, some pictures. Some of this work is still in progress, some of it is completed. Northern Nash, if you'll look, the picture directly behind you, there's the 600 building. That's a brand new chiller we just put in there. In addition, I mentioned in my capital outlay money, we're doing LED lighting and ceilings in the 15 classrooms. That could not be used with ESSER funding, but we're doing this in tandem with ESSER funding, doing the mechanical work from the 15 classrooms in tandem with updating the classroom lighting. Cooper's dining room, we replaced that in-house with ESSER funding. Hubbard Elementary cafeteria, Hubbard Elementary 200 and 300 wings, and Nash Central Middle. You'll switch. Next slide. This is Parker Middle Gym. We pulled that gym off of the main chiller because they use that building for so many functions. We can isolate that down instead of running pumps. If you look on the right picture, that's the chiller that was set in there last week, Parker Middle as well. That chiller's on the opposite end of the gymnasium. So anytime we're wanting to have a function of any sort, you're having to fire pumps up at the other end of the building, utility fees and things of that nature. We've been pulling these gymnasiums off so that we can isolate these areas for energy efficiency as well as comfort. This here is Red Oak Elementary. The gymnasium, part of that contract was pulled out from the new construction. We put those units in, my staff in-house. You see the duct sock along with the duct work coming out of the walls. Rocky Mount Middle chiller replacement, Edwards Middle, 500, 700, 800, 900, and admin. All of that is going on. We're in the 700 wing now. We're going to march from the 7 to the admin to the 8 to the 9, all during, we're closing a wing down because we have enough 50 seats in that building. It's the only way we could complete a project of this size in the time frame we're given. So we're accommodating, Mr. Gerard is accommodating us, and we're locking down a wing and doing all the lights, ceilings, and heating and air.
This is all income? You guys are doing it?
No, we're doing the LED light upgrades, but we're contracting. No, this is over $1 million
Yeah.
heating and air project. We couldn't handle that.
So you pulled that.
Next slide. This is some of the window replacement. This is Hubbard. This is the first school we started at. You can see the multipurpose room in the left picture with the new cow wall windows. And on the right side, that's the 200 wing. You can look a picture where we have it completed there on the right, most of that picture, and the new windows on the left. And we're starting to walk through some of these campuses. Williford will be next. Those windows will be in next week, and we're hoping to start that installation. Edwards Middle will be in mid-late July. Spring Hope Coopers, not the whole campus at Coopers, it's just the pre-K, the old pre-K building. Next slide. And of course, you mentioned the activity buses. We have purchased those. They're on the lot. We may end up purchasing some more. I think we had 21. We're letting some of the money climb. I think of the 12.2 million I was allotted, I'm down to 700,000 that's been allocated. And my staff has done this in 11 months since this has started. So we have encumbered quite a bit of that money. Any questions for me?
Well, Mr. Trevor, I like,
Yes, sir.
Shannon's heard me say this before. We started taking a lot of stuff in-house as far as your maintenance stuff. We paid teachers, retention stipends, stuff like that. And I've asked you this question before. Is there any way you can tell about how much we save taxpayers by your maintenance staff doing the work instead of having to contract it out. What I'm getting at is any way we can look at some kind of salary stipend for some of our maintenance workers that have gone above and beyond during this time period.
I think that's a challenge that he's asking Dr. Ellis, if you and your team could put together something to see what, because I'm telling you, you guys are phenomenal. I've been to the sites where you're working and what they do, and it never ceases to amaze me with the expertise and the knowledge of what they do. That's why when I saw that HVAC, you guys did that, it wouldn't have surprised me if you did.
We do a lot of that, just not that scale. We did the 200 and 300 at Hubbard. We did all that in-house, but we did not want to jump on a $1.6 million job because that would confine us down too much. We try to pick jobs with a work order load, and I try to pick time frames. So we go in and take these jobs out. You know, sometimes they say, well, if they're doing your capital projects, you're not able to maintain the schools, where we kind of pick our time frames. And when you throw in 10 or 12 people that you've cross-trained,
Right.
instead of taking a 2 to 3 month job, we're knocking it out in a week to 2 weeks. So that's how we're kind of fashioned to do some of those quick hit jobs like that.
Mr. Chair, I guess what I'm, if he can put together a list, if the maintenance have saved taxpayers $500,000 by doing it in-house instead of having to contract it out, like we used to do quite a few things, then if a maintenance worker can get a $250 or $500 stipend, we need to reward these folks for the hard work they've done too, in my opinion.
I agree with that. I like that idea as well.
So that's a challenge to Dr. Ellis for your team to try to put something together. But again, I just want to say this part from sitting in this seat and working with your team and the rest of the group. There has not been an opportunity or time that we've not challenged you and your staff that you have not come to. You know, when your team does work, and not only your team, but this whole staff, all your whole staff, you can take it to the bank. I mean, I'm confident in what you guys bring to this table is true and on the point. So the confidence level that I have sitting here with you guys are exceptional, because you've proven yourself over and over and over. So I just want to say, and I think I speak for this board, thank you, thank you, thank you. You guys are phenomenal.
Thanks.
So we wanted to get into the funding challenges, and we have kind of picked 4. Go ahead, Tremaine. Of what we're going to be facing, and one is going to be the increase in salary benefits, and Ms. Whitman will come and speak to that shortly. There's going to be a technology demand or a refresh plan. We are 1-to-1 now as a district. We have really, we're just really updating this technology in our schools. And with technology, we got to have a plan as to how we move forward, because you don't want to go backwards when it comes to technology. The declining ADM we talked about, we're not getting as much money this year. And that's based on student enrollment. And also teacher retention, where we talked about bonuses for sign-on bonuses for teachers, for new teachers, but also a way to keep the good teachers and keep them here so they won't leave. So those are going to be our top 4 funding challenges. Next slide. And Barbara will speak to this one right now about the salary and benefit increases, which to me is one of our biggest problems.
Our anticipated changes for year 2023, the classified employees, the 2.5%. This is a 2-year, as part of a 2-year biannual budget, where we are mandated to meet the minimum of pay of $15 per hour for all classified employees. So that's where that 2.5% is coming to play. It's got to be higher of the 15 or 2.5% increase for all classified. That's going to be a big portion there. We've got a lot of, quite a few bus drivers, monitors, child nutrition. The next, your benefit increases. As you can see, our retirement is going to increase by 1.3%. Our hospitalization per employee is 378 per employee. Now, if you just take like 2,500 employees and multiply that 378, you're going to get about $945,000 increase in hospitalization alone. So that is really going to affect us with the decrease in your state funding and your low due to your lower ADM. This overflow is going to have to come from local. And when I say that, I'm not saying per se the hospitalization cost. Your other needs that are utilized in your state funds or your federal funds, some of those needs will have to be met through local. Any questions?
Not questions, but just comments. I think this is where this board, we took upon the challenge when we decided to run for these offices. This is where you do your job. This is where I do my job. When we start working, because basically what you're saying that when the ADM came down, the cost still went up.
That's right.
And there's a gap in there. So that gap in there has got to be met someplace. What we've been doing over the past years has been cuts within inside our district. We've cut that we can't cut a lot more. One of the things that we have, and I think maybe Dr. Ellis will talk to this, is that basically we have to find revenue from some other sources. The only other source that we have is our county commissioners. So one of the things that we do know is over the past 4 years, they've stayed flat. The monies that they've given us to stay flat. And I just don't remember, if it's $4,000, it's $4,000 this year, it just stays 4,000. While it's staying flat, COLA increases. It doesn't stay flat. Someplace that difference got to be made up. And that's where when you talk to folks in your area, the southern end, or whatever area, your county commissioner, you should be having discussions with your county commissioner. I don't know if you know who your county, I know who mine is. You need to be sitting down with your county commissioner, understanding this is how can you help us, help our kids? And if I'll leave it open, but the task falls on us as an elected official representing this district. If I was to ask the question, when's the last time you talked to your county commissioners about stuff like this, what would the answer be? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So the next one, move forward, Tremaine. So what
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
One more question for you. On that $15 base per hour, is that something that the state had set? Is that a DPI? Is that a state? Which one is that one? Okay,
The budget
all right.
passed this year. Yeah.
Okay, all right. That's what I was just making sure of, because I knew that the 15 for the state had been, in other parts, had been enacted 2 years ago. That's why I was kind of, okay, thank you.
So what we've come up with the next in the budget request. So what we're going to be asking for with both sets of commissioners is we want to an increased teacher supplement by 1%. We want to fund that recruitment bonus that we did this year. We also want to increase the non-certified local supplement, and we want to have a refresh plan every year for technology. So the one-to-one refresh plan, Mr. McQueen, I'm going to allow you to talk to that one.
As you know, we presented a refresh plan. Let me get refresh plan to the joint board meeting with the county commissioners of Nashville. As you already know, we are a full one-to-one. That means that every student in our district has full access to a device, and we also have spares available now. So as Dr. Ellis, he mentioned earlier that we can't move backwards. And the good thing I can say today as a one-to-one district, we have adequate devices. Before the pandemic, we were really struggling. You know, When this whole thing hit, we did not have any devices. When the funding came, we still didn't have devices, even though that we purchased devices, they still came about 6 months later. So if we move on to the next section, this gives you just an overview, outline of our refresh plan that we put in place. And the reason for this plan is we wanted adequate devices for our students and staff at all times. If you look at the refresh plan, pre-K, we plan on refreshing their devices every 4 years. The devices that they have are grade specific devices, so it stays in pre-K. Grades 1, 5th, and 9th grade will be upgraded or given a new devices every year annually. And they will keep those devices for 4 years. And the reason why we mapped it to 4 years is because of the warranty that is attached to those devices. And we didn't forget our staff as well. The reason why we came up with 450, we have roughly around maybe 2,000 staff members. We wanted to refresh them as well, about 450 devices per year. Now, prior to today, and when I did the presentation at the last meeting, the cost to maintain was $1.5 million. But as we know, the cost of inflation, glass and all of the computer parts, the microchips and all that stuff, it went up. So it's going to now cost us $1.8 million to maintain the one-to-one initiative. It feels good right now, but after that ESSER money is gone, then we need to figure out how we're going to sustain it. Yes, sir.
So you're saying that's about how many machines a year?
It's 1,200 per grade level. So you got 3,600 machines plus the 450, all together. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. And every 4 years, your pre-K, that's not as big as a regular grade level.
And these are all machines that are meeting certain specs?
Absolutely. These are the Chromebooks, which is the best to have in a school district because you're not dealing with the Windows machines with viruses and things like that. With the Chrome devices that we have, we can push out updates, whether they're in school or whether they're home or whether they're at Disney World. If we need to push out any kind of policy, we can push it anywhere. Yes.
I'm just gonna make a comment on that because I've seen your staff do. We echoed about sharing his group. Your team's done the same thing.
Thank you.
When it comes to technology, on the precipice, you're on the cutting edge. You're always looking ways to do that. And with your staff that you have,
Oh, yeah.
they're phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
You guys sail this boat. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. With our new school about to open, which
Mhm.
will be a hefty number of students, I know we're moving some students in. How are we gonna look in terms of your staffing to handle the school's population increases there? Or do we have enough people to do what you?
We got not to get into the weeds.
I'm just,
The overall ADM is really not changing. I think, right? Right. So that we would need an increase in staff there. If that makes sense. Yeah, because some of the schools will be closing, so some of those staff would come and they'll be able to help out there.
Ms. Lamb.
Do we still have the resale plan like we used to have? If somebody had a MacBook or Chromebook in 9th grade and they graduated 4 years later, do they still have a chance to buy that?
We're going to do a different plan that I'd rather present to y'all later, but I prefer not to go that route.
Well, as a parent, two girls went to college. My girls used theirs the first 2 years of college.
Yeah.
And for $125 investment, it
We're-
was well
we're-
worth it.
Absolutely. Those were Mac devices too.
It finally died and I had to bite the bullet.
Oh, yes.
But it's still a good plan for somebody just going to college if we had that.
Yes, sir.
So, anybody else have a question? My question is, this is great,
Mhm.
the one-to-one freshman plan, but I got one small issue with that. Not with the plan,
Mhm.
but that's with connectivity for people out in rural areas, way out in the middle of no place,
Right.
where the connectivity is bad,
Right.
internet service is bad. and this is, and I'm gonna hop back on the soap wagon again, that this is where this board comes in. When you sat down and talked to your county commissioners about those fiber optic network outside in the county, what's going on with that? Having those discussions. So I'll leave that in with you, sir.
Oh, yes, sir. Absolutely.
Point taken.
Point taken. There you go.
We live it.
All right, anything else? All right, any additional
I,
questions?
I would, like I
Yes.
said, long-term contracts, I would hope we could use 1.8 million of ESSA funds 2 years after ESSA dies.
So, Mr. Quinn, can you look at that maybe and see if we can,
Yeah, yes, I'll work with Ms. We'll look
Not
into
through
it.
the feds start finding.
Yeah.
I don't know how we're gonna.
I don't think you can. Okay. All right, we'll look into that and get back to you, let you know. So.
Beg for forgiveness instead of ask for forgiveness.
Not me.
This is federal money. This is the federal money.
You got on orange today.
We're gonna write
Orange
that
don't look
down.
good.
We're gonna put that down.
All
This
right.
land.
Yeah, you make sure that you write that name down. correct?
There you go.
No.
I'll be so old and I wouldn't care.
So the other request we're asking is to, we had a recruitment bonus this year, and Ms. Wallace, can you just speak to what we're trying to accomplish next year with this recruitment bonus?
Is the next slide? Okay, thank you. So this year, well, of course, this school year, this is the first year in many years that we've been able to provide a recruitment bonus as a recruiting tool to solicit quality educators to our district. So for the upcoming school year, we are still requesting the funding for the recruitment bonuses, but we're taking it one step further and asking for an amount for retention bonuses as well. We were allowed to use ESSA funding to pay a one-time retention bonus to all of employees that remained in the district for the entire school year. This year, we would like to continue the recruitment bonuses by requesting funding for hard-to-fill positions, numerous vacancies in the following areas: elementary EC, middle school EC, math and science, high school EC, math and science, instructional assistants EC, and the regular instruction, as well as bus drivers. Our hard-to-fill positions are numerous vacancies are DS Johnson, Middlesex, Parker, and Southern Nash Middle currently. We also have several low-performing schools. As you know, we are a low-performing district, but the state provides a tiering list for us, which speaks to the 5% lowest performing schools in the entire state. And we would like to add an additional bonus for those teachers or staff members that elect to go to those schools. The retention bonus would be for all part-time and full-time positions. They must remain in the district for the entire 22-23 school year. Last year, we had a budget of about $350,000. But if you look and consider the amount that we use for retention bonus, it would equate to about $500,000. And that's what we're asking the county commissioners to support. Any questions? Any questions?
we'll talk a little bit more time before we write someplace.
Okay, thank you.
So the next conversation is the local supplement. And we met with the county commissioners in, I believe it was October, November. We talked about a 2% supplement increase. And we kind of gave them some, where we are now at 11 to 12% to the Wake County, Johnson County. We were, based on the last budget, I believe it was House Bill 71, possibly, they gave us basically a 1% supplement for every district. They were trying to make up for supplements that other counties have, like a Wake County, I think it was Guilford County, but teachers receive an extra 1% supplement now, and I heard that's recurring money. So they got an extra $1,035 this year. So we won't be asking for a 2% supplement because we're getting a 1. We're going to ask for the 1% supplement from the county commissioners at the at our meeting. So I'm just letting you know, we're asking for one. We've already been given one by the state. So the non-certified, we put 1%, 1.5%, 2%, and basically gave a total. We're hoping we can at least get 1 or 2% from the county commissioners, but at the last conversation, I sent this information to the county commissioners just for them to look at what it would cost. You can see around $220,000. If it's a 1% increase, 330, 1.5, and 2% would be 440. And that would give basically everyone about a 1 to 2% supplement increase. Next slide.
So, sorry. So the raises that we approved in December for January, none of that was included then?
Not in that supplement. No, that'd be something different.
So we're going for more supplements.
Correct.
Okay.
So what we're really asking for, if you can see this local current expense budget, we're going to be asking for about another $2.5 million from county commissioners this year. And we think that'll be a good starting point for us to begin with the supplements, with the refresh plan, retention, the bonuses, and that will be our starting point for next year. So we wanted to show you that. So tomorrow night, Edgecombe, you'll see the same slides, and we'll be talking about this tomorrow. Any questions on this presentation?
So on page on this 45.
Okay.
So what I'm seeing here is appropriation 22 million, ask for 2.2 from Nash County. Is that right?
Yep. There you go.
Edgecombe, we're at 263,000, 264,000. And everything that you're asking for is inclusive of what we went over this whole process.
Correct.
Now the forfeiture remain constant.
Normally.
Thank you.
All righty. So that's our budget presentation.
Any questions? Oh, I need a motion to present this to the full board.
So moved.
Questions or discussions? Entertain those in it during the process. Madam Board Clerk, roll call vote, please. Yes.
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 Yes, it will present this forward. Now, we won't present this summary to the full board on next Monday. The next item that we had on the agenda was discussed was the District 8 vacancy. We did have 3 candidates that sent in their information who wanted to interview for that role. Had a conversation, we wanted to do that tonight, but according to our board attorney, that's an open meeting, so it has to be notified 48 hours in advance. And I did see Mr. Malone someplace walking around, so we will move that out. We have 3 candidates. I think our board clerk has sent you guys the information with those 3 candidates, right, Mrs. Lamb? So you have all that information. So on our Monday's work session, we will have a discussion, a meeting with those 3 candidates to entertain them. We'll do it on our work session on Monday. And hopefully, I was hoping Mr. Malone would be in here, that we could sort of go into closed session. I don't know if we can do that or not, but actually have discussion as far as maybe if one of those 3 stood out with us, we can possibly appoint someone or for that seat on Monday night if the board so chooses. What my concern was that basically if we decided to do that, would we need someone in here to actually swear them in. And Ms. Lamb, you were gonna look into that for me. Did you find out anything? That's fine. So the question that came up, maybe someone on this board, Ms. Bullock, you've been around for a minute, or Ms. Davis. Can we have, what do you call it? Notary to swear someone in?
That's not gonna feel good. No, we've always had, local board or judge. And I would say, I would recommend Mr. Sharp that I know we want to move swiftly with the process, but if you elect that person, they may want to choose to have their family here, and you don't know about that can be arranged.
And, you know, we thought about that. Again, this is a temporary seat because actually the actual full board seat, it's gonna be an elected seat in November.
But that may be true, so they may not return, but at the same time, that would be the option. They could have family active forever. That would be my only observation there. I have no problem if they do it, but it's kind of like I would come home saying, guess what? And so family and kids, spouse wouldn't have been able to hold the Bible and.
Yeah. And that's a good point. My thought on that was as a temporary seat, you're gonna be sitting in that seat for less than 6 months, probably about 5.
Right.
And I sort of, I sort of, we can wait and if we want to do that till June, is it the June meeting?
Or we can do a special call meeting.
We try to stay away from special call meetings.
I think it might be worth it to have a special call meeting just for that. It wouldn't take that long, but I agree with, David.
Okay. But I'm gonna tell you from this point of view, I don't like calling special call meetings because I can't get people here when it's supposed to be here.
I don't like you calling special call meetings either, but.
So with that said, Ms. Davis, we will strongly consider that. All right.
Let me just add
Yes,
one
ma'am.
more thing to the argument,
Discussion.
discussion, debate, whatever. If we have that special call meeting, then that person, whoever that person might be, would be able to participate in the discussion for the committee level meeting prior to the board meeting in June. Otherwise, they would not be able to participate until June.
So I tell you what we can do, and we can work through this process. We can split the difference. We could actually do that, and I'm open to the board, at our regular work session committee meeting, like what we're having now. So in our, what month are we in? April, in our May meeting, we do that, we can do that.
Yeah.
All right. So with that said, there's no action item on that. So the next item on the agenda, one of the things that I did say that we were going to do, we're going to turn it over now. We're going to change, we're going to shift gears and we're going to go from the administrative services and we're going to have the academic services and accountability committee meeting. And once we finish that, we'll go into closed session and we'll come back and close out on item, the upset bid process.
All right, excuse me. So at this time, I would like to call the Academic Services and Accountability Committee to order. I'll start with roll call. Board member, Dr. Washington. Here. Mr. Bissett. Mr. Lamb.
Here.
And Thomas Bullock, I'm here. All right, and so we have one item up. Ms. Nancy Smith, two. My computer's moving slowly. Here we go. All right, we got 2 today, so Ms. Nancy Smith.
Good evening, Committee Chair Bullock, Board Chair Sharp, Board Vice Chair Dr. Washington, and other committee members, and Dr. Ellis. Today, I want to give you an update on Nash Everywhere Digital Academy. We're going to talk a little bit about the current status for this year, next year's status, talk a little bit about the performance so far from our students from our Nash Everywhere Digital Academy, and then enrollments for this year and tentative enrollments for next year. So next slide, please. So as you know, for this year, the Nash Everywhere Digital Academy acted as a school, or has been a school within a school in Tar River Academy. The district did apply for and was granted a school code for this school year, but since it was our first year, we chose not to use that. Wanted to get a good start with what we had moving forward as a beginning, and looking forward to using the school code for this coming school year. And that will be the case. We applied again and did receive a code for the Digital Academy, and next year it will be a school on its own. The school code will be 640341. And because it's its own school, it will have a principal. We will hire a principal for that, as well as other support staff based on the numbers, just like our regular other schools. They'll have support staff, nurse, social worker, counselor, any of those will be available to them as well, EC staff as well, based on their numbers, just like other school staff. So if you look at some, just going to give you some diagnostic data as well as some in-case and M-class. I won't go through all the numbers, but as you look at this one, this is growth from diagnostics from first through our third diagnostic. So we've had 3 in exact path for reading and math across the school year. One obviously at the beginning of the school year, mid-year, and we just finished our 3rd one. So if you look at growth, just an average, if you look at the district average for those 1st through 8th grade, for math was 101, just in terms of growth numbers. For the NETA students, it's 142. I didn't put the averages at the bottom. The slide was kind of tight already, so I'm just going to give you those, and I'll put that later. Reading, the district average was an 83. And for the NETA staff, NETA students is 95. So just kind of, those are the individual by grade, but I want just to have give you an average. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. The next 2 are just percent proficiency based on our in-case data, which is our benchmark program. When I put this presentation together, we didn't have access to the end of the year. They were still in the middle of that. That has been completed since this presentation was put together, and Ms. Griffin's put that those total numbers. But this just has the MOY. But as of EOY, we look at overall average, Bailey was the top school in the district and NETA was right under that. So if you look at overall average and percentage for how they scored on the benchmark, NETA was second in line in terms of our school performance. So you can go ahead and go to the next one. Go ahead and go to the next slide. And then if you click that, what's that? Well, there should be several more. Other than not sure. There you go. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. So you hit that link there. That's the M-class data for our 1st through 3rd grade. And just kind of highlight again, the district average for 1st grade, and I'm looking at just the green and blue bars, which are at benchmark or above. The district average for 1st grade was 42%. And again, that would just be putting those 2 numbers together at the MOY, the 2021-22 MOY number. That's the green and blue together. For our Nash Everywhere Digital Academy students, I know it says Tar River, but again, they're a school inside a school there. For 1st grade is 56. For 2nd grade, the district is 34%, and the NETA students were 45. And in 3rd grade, the district average is 40%, and the NETA students are at 54. So again, you can kind of just want to kind of give you a perspective on how our students are doing in the Digital Academy. That virtual instruction is going very well. We have some good quality teachers, and the students are performing very well. So I'm very happy with that. Next slide. Talking a little bit about enrollment. Our current enrollment right now, we have 285 students in 1st through 8th grade. The 1st grade, you notice, is a very small number. We only have 1 teacher for that grade level, but we have 2 at every other grade level. So that's why the numbers are different there. When in high school for 9th through 12th grade, they have currently 117 students, and those are still enrolled within their home high schools. They're not in a separate power school as the 1st through 8th grade students are. So we put an application process on our district website from February 15th to the 28th for any parents or who wanted to apply to be NETA students for next school year. From the application process, we had 173 students who applied in 1st through 8th grade, and 86 who applied to be new students in 9th through 12th grade. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So we use the same criteria for selecting students for this coming school year that we did for this school year. We looked at wanted them to pass at least 3 of their 4 core classes in this school year. and meet the current attendance standards that are in the promotion and retention standards there. So of those students that I mentioned earlier, those numbers 173 and 86, tentatively our enrollment for next year would be on that top there. We'd have 12 in first grade. Now, again, remember, we didn't have any kindergarten students, so that would just be new students and no returning. So again, that's why that number is a little smaller, and then you can see the rest of the numbers there. We're going to look again next month. So those numbers were based on just how the students were performing at that point, right after those applicants filled out the application. So in March. So if we're thinking about that passing 3 out of 4 core classes, we're going to look at those students again to make sure that there's some that have maybe improved their grades from March to May. So hopefully there will be some. So those numbers should go up a little bit. And we're also going to revisit that attendance requirement. Attendance has been, let's just say, not what we'd like for it to be across the district, not just at NETA students as well. And so we may adjust that a little bit whether we accepted them one way or another based on attendance, just because overall that's been something we're working on diligently across the district. So we want to be fair to the NETA students as well as we are for any other student. We teach them and treat them the same as we do for all the rest of them. So that ends that. This is a report just for information only. Any questions for me? Okay. Yes.
When this was first proposed as in another silo, if you will, another name, we were advised that people from other districts could be a part of this program. So they live in other counties.
Yes, sir.
And so we have people that are outside this school district coming to NETA, correct?
At this point, we don't have too many, but that is an option. Yes, they would pay tuition the same as they would from any other.
All right. And are they paying that tuition? That's what I was getting to.
To my knowledge, actually, I have to look back and think about that. I don't actually, we had some, I think they've moved out of district since then. And that was prior to the actual joining the 1st through 8th grade. That would have actually been our high school students, and they probably have already left the district.
Who's accountable within the district to get that money?
Student service.
Student services.
Okay, so are we getting it or do we not?
I thought you said he left. They left.
I think they've left the district at this point. So
We can
I
find out.
will find that out for sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean,
Because that was one thing I was going to mention, actually. You know, we're talking about attendance of ADM being down within the district. The Digital Academy would be a great place for us to advertise and draw students, either whether from outside the district, those who are in private schools who may want to do something at home but haven't been able to before. Our tuition, what we would ask for them here would be much less than what they pay at a private school. So,
and I agree, but I just have mixed feelings that if we have staff who is responsible for holding the children or parents or whoever that are outside the district who are supposed to be paying by some type of contract, we have those people to go get that money or need to bring that money in, but yet we're going to the county commissioners asking for money, but we're not working to get it. We need to step back and clean our own backyard first.
They would go through the same reassignment process, so it all
Absolutely.
through student services wouldn't be anything separate.
Right, but
Y'all
I'm
be
just saying we need to
Oh, I
be
get
actively
it.
engaged.
Let me just say this. I think these guys are engaged in that process and they're following that process. So you guys continue to do what you do and make sure that you follow that line. And I'm
sure.
So
And I will definitely
leave
get
it
back to you whether we have some and make sure that's happening.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions?
I think that's what's helped us keep getting
Some
that
too.
500 number back up,
I
because
believe so.
Right.
that's,
I believe.
they had a place to go.
Right.
I really think that's what's helping us, because the
Mhm.
state will pay you for 2. If they're just taking 2 classes, they'll give you full-time enrollment, which is something we can offer to those homeschool students. So
Right.
you're right. Good deal.
Amen.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Thompson?
All right, so good evening. Overnight and out-of-state field trips must have Nash board approval each month. The supporting document you can see in assembly there. This month we have 3 overnight field trips. I do want to bring your attention to number 1. Number 1 is for an all-state band. The student was nominated for all-state band. That came in very late, not from us, but from the organization. So we do not want that child to be able to miss that opportunity. You can notice that it is starting on 4/28, and she will return from that on May the 1st, 2022. The other two are actually both are from Rocky Mount High School. They are both for basketball camp, one for boys basketball camp and one for girls basketball camp in June. So the superintendent is presenting this tonight, or recommends approval for the overnight field trips for May of 2022.
Okay, any questions or discussion? No, okay. So I'll entertain a motion to accept all three.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to accept.
Thank you. All right, so the motion was made by Mr. Lamb and seconded by Dr. Washington. So do a roll call vote. Dr. Washington?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Lamb,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. All right, motion carried. We don't have anything else at this time?
So as I stated earlier, we did a modification of agenda, so we're coming back. Is Mr. Malone around? Could you grab him, please? So we're coming back. I need a motion to go into closed session.
Mr. Chair, I make the motion that we go into closed session pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11 A1, A3, and A6 to prevent the disclosure of confidential personnel files under GS 115C 321 to consider matters relating to initial employment of an individual employee, to prevent the disclosure of confidential student records under GS 115C 402, and to consult with the board's attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege.
And second,
Second.
probably moved by Mr. Lamb, second by Ms. Davis. Question or discussions? Hearing none, we'll do closed session in this room. So I'll ask everybody to excuse themselves.